this is my board game, BGProto. This is a Pokemon-esque strategy war game, a capture the monster strategy war game rather, in which each player chooses an area to begin with. Each area is a unique terrain that has its own unique effects and interact with each deck, which is going to be a monster. Now, at the start of each game, a player will pick the top card from a deck, and that would be their starting monster. So in this case, in this forest area, you would pick from the forest deck, and then you would flip over this top card, and that would be the starting monster. Now each starting monster will have attack value, defense value, and health value. And there will also be a symbol to show which terrain it belongs in, which will grant it different effects from the terrain if you battle in it. So to start off with, so do the tech terrain, and then this is the hive terrain. Flip. Now, throughout the game, a player will roll this four-sided dice. This is the movement dice. A player will roll this four-sided dice by pressing the R key, like clicking on the dice and then pressing the R key, or they can just right-click and then manually roll it. Doesn't really matter. And then that will determine where the player will go. Some maps have areas where the player can walk wherever they want. So, for example, the tech area right here, the player can move wherever they want, forward or backwards, as long as it conforms with the arrows present on the map. Otherwise, for example, if the player suddenly comes over here, they can choose to move to this zone over here, or they can choose to move down over here. That is their choice. However, if they're up here, they can only move to this area back and forth, or this area back and forth. There will be zones with monster faces on them. Those are the encounters. When a player encounters a monster, they will pick the top card from the respective zone's deck, and then flip it, look at the monster, and if they choose to do so, they can attempt to capture the monster. Capturing the monster in this game is fairly simple. You roll the dice, and if it's a 1 through 4, you capture the monster. If it's a 5 or 6, shove the monster back into the deck. So there's a 6, so the monster goes back into the bottom of the deck. And to be safe, the player can also shuffle it. And also, throughout each encounter, when the player's party is full, so the maximum party number of monsters is 3. Maximum party of monsters is 3. Once they reach the party cap, the player can choose to switch out the monster for a new one that they encounter, or they can release the monster, throw them back into the deck that they belong, and add an extra stat to the monster. So they would put this D20, one of the D20s, onto the monster, and that would add a 1 to every single one of their stats. And within each encounter, the player can distribute those stats to each monster however they want. Players are also allowed to exchange monsters or items. Items can be obtained if a player moves on to the exclamation point zone, and then they can pick up an item card. They do not have to show their opponent. They can move that into their hand like so. And in this case, I get a heal 20. They can use the item card at any time during combat or anytime during movement. However, either way, they will have to give up that turn. So for example, if it's my turn, and I can choose to move, or I can just choose to heal 20 from one of my monsters. And then once the item is used, it goes back into the bottom of the deck and shuffled. Throughout the game, each player will have 3 monsters to work with, and there will be item cards that prompt the player to combat another player. Or if a player gets within 1 space of another player, they can challenge them to combat. And during combat, the attack value of a monster will be subtracted with the defense value of the monster, and then that will be applied to their health. And once health reaches 0, the monster is knocked out and returned to the deck it belongs. And once a player has run out of monsters, they get kicked out. The goal of the game is to be the last person standing. However, because there is a possibility that this game can drag on because there are certain strategies that the players can use to just always have monsters in their persons at all times through certain strategies. There is also a separate win condition. If you knock out 10 of player owned monsters, then you win. The first person to knock out 10 can win. This game was made mostly on, well, I would like to say Tabletopia, but it is mostly made on Clip Studio Paint and an art program. I drew the board and the monsters individually. Um, However, the dice, the board, like the table, and the background itself is created on Tabletopia. Oh, not created, but because I didn't specifically make the background or the table, but it is sourced from Tabletopia Creative Workshop. On Tabletopia, the creator can add D20s, D4, D6s, and the like. They can add different types of dice. They can also take certain card assets from other workshops as well, or they can make their own, like I have. Uh, yeah, this is my board game, BGProto, and thank you for watching.